Lemon-Zucchini Soup starts off a meal with adaptations of classic recipes. Nathalie demonstrates an easy and delicious menu of turkey tonnato, a different kind of bean salad, and Cal Ricotta Cheekecake.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Dupree, and yet again I want to show you some tips for a busy, busy day. I like to combine cooking steps. For instance, boiling water. Bringing a large pot of water to the boil takes a long time, so if I'm going to cook spaghetti or pasta, I cook twice as much as I need and I save some. Save part of the spaghetti. In this case, what I'm going to do is I've blanched some green beans. I'm going to show you how to tip them and tail them in a second. But I brought a big pot of water to the boil. I threw the green beans in. Then I used a scooper, scooped them out, and I've got them in a strainer here for you. Cook them about 8 minutes. That's for the salad I'll be making later. Run them under cold water. That's called refreshing them. That means to set the color and make them refreshed and they get a flush of color. And then drain them from that cold water. But I'm going to use that same water to poach a turkey breast. And here I've got a regular old turkey breast. I didn't like the little, thing that goes in it that registers the temperature. I've just pulled that out. And I'm going to put them in a large stock pot with a carrot, an onion. And I don't peel that carrot. Why not get every bit of vitamin that you can get, which is the same way as the green beans. They're just adding vitamins to your water and goodness to your water. And you're not going to really taste it because they were only in there 8 minutes. But add your carrot. That's going to be in there a long time. It's washed, of course. An onion. And I usually would cut that onion in half just to get a little more flavor. And leave the skin on. Why not? Of course, if you have a really brown piece like that, you may want to cut that off because this is going to be a white stock. Some turkey stocks are brown. If you used a cooked turkey and cooked turkey bones like after Thanksgiving, then you'd have a brown turkey stock. And put this onion in there and some parsley sprigs. Now, you don't want the leaves because they're just going to wilt. They're not going to keep their flavor after any period of time, but the stalks are. A bay leaf right here, and peppercorns. You always want to count your peppercorns out in the same ratio. Some people use 6 and some people use 10. Just decide what you're going to use in terms of peppercorns forever, because sooner or later you're going to put peppercorns in when you meant to grind pepper and going to have to count them out. And so that's the trick. Now you put the turkey in enough water to cover and bring it to the boil. I'm just going to go ahead and add it. You put all those things in there, bring them to the boil, add your turkey, and let's just hope that this doesn't run over. I think it might. Let's just see how lucky I am. Do you think I'm going to make it? Oop, I made it. That's a little too much water. Reduce your heat and simmer it covered, and you could never cover that, about 2 hours. And then some scum comes to the top. Just skim it off. That's no big deal. Just skim it off. I have a slotted thing that I use to remove the scum. But frankly, lots of times I just don't even fool with that if I'm really busy, and I wait till later and take off the scum later. You let your turkey breast cool in the stock, and then you can pull this out, which is where it is now, and then you refrigerate your stock or freeze it. Lots of times what I'll do is boil that down because it'll take up so much room in the refrigerator or the freezer. I'll boil it down till it's much, much less. And of course then I can use it for gravy or stuffing or rice or couscous or anything that you want to. It's really delicious, and it's particularly nice for Thanksgiving to have some turkey stock already ready, and you add that to your drippings in the pan and come up with something that's heavenly. Use turkey stock just like you would chicken stock. And if it was brown from the juices, you could use it as a brown stock. Okay, now here's the turkey sauce, and what we're making today is turkey tonnato. And it'll serve 6 to 8 people. So there. The sauce is better the second day, so make it ahead of time and make it while the turkey's poaching. and then everything will be ready the next day. I said poaching. Poaching means not boiling. Once that turkey's come up to a boil and you reduce the heat, you don't want to boil it because that will make your turkey tough. So watch that. Now in your food processor, combine mayonnaise, drained tuna, and this dish was originally taught to me using veal. I don't know about you where you are, but good veal is hard to get in Georgia. It comes into the stores and it goes right out. So go ahead and add your turkey, your anchovy fillets, your olive oil, and really it's better if it's pureeing the whole time. Your lemon juice, some drained capers, and process the whole stuff until it's smooth. You can also do this in a blender. You may not be able to do it all at one time, but you can do it in a blender. Hear that little plug? And just that's it. And you can refrigerate it up to 4 days. Just remember, of course, whenever you are using mayonnaise products, that if you start diluting them with other things, that you can't let them sit out forever and ever at room temperature, but you have to watch it. This has got some extra acid added to it, so it'll just be fine. And I use store-bought mayonnaise on purpose, too, just because I think that keeps the, it just keeps better. Now, you want to peel your turkey, and then you're going to slice it thinly. This has been sitting here under these lights for a while, but we'll just see how it does. Be a little bit better. You'll peel yours as soon as it's cool, and it won't be quite as stiff. Looks like this little guy was on his stomach too, see, and cooked on the bottom of the pan. So try not to put him on the stomach. And you can just pull, you can see the turkey off, or you can slice it on the bone, depending, it just depends on what's easier or easiest for you to do. And let's just go ahead now and slice him. Tidy yours up a little bit more before you slice it, but those are dried pieces. Now find a knife that suits you, and not every knife suits everybody. So just go ahead and take your knives and just slice it very thin. This is a lovely, nice, long knife, but here's an even longer carving knife that I particularly like. And see right there? I think turkey's a little hard to slice because if you overcook it, it can be a little crumbly. So you need a sharp knife. Arrange your slices on a platter, just happen to have one here, overlapping one another, and then pour the sauce over the turkey. Let me get away from all these things so you can see how pretty it is in its pristine glory. You see how it's arranged just like a breast again, and then go ahead, pour a little of your sauce over, or spoon it over, and garnish with what are called cornichons, which are these little tiny pickles. And lemon slices are pretty as well. You might even do lemon halves. Now, here's a simple green bean salad, but it's just a little different. I've got some cherry tomatoes here that I have halved or quartered. It just depends very much on their size. And then tip and tail your green beans, which means to snap off the tip and the tail and check to see if they need stringing. Put them into boiling water, and I've already done that. It can be salted. And cook them about 8 minutes, and then run them under cold water, like I said, and drain them. Rinse and drain some canned kidney beans, and then toss together the cherry tomatoes, the green beans, the drained kidney beans. I've got my green beans all the way over there. Let me go get them for you. And, of course, you can do these green beans a day or so in advance right there. I probably would cut those in half, too. Some sliced black olives. I've got them here. Try not to use the rubbery kind. Try to use something really nice like an Italian or a Greek one. Some chopped jalapeno peppers and chopped fresh ginger. I don't want to touch that with my hands because then I'll rub my eyes. Be very careful. I always use rubber gloves when I'm chopping that jalapeno pepper. Some chopped dill. Could use a little bit more of that. There's the ginger. And now, let me just very quickly make this sauce for you. You whisk together some Dijon mustard, some balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar, whatever kind you like. Balsamic vinegar, you know, is very rich and full-bodied, and it doesn't need as much oil as, say, a red wine vinegar. So you always have to stop and taste a dressing and see how you like it. Every balsamic vinegar is different, every wine vinegar is different, so you can't just count on a straight amount. And then go ahead and season it to taste with salt, pepper, and sugar. If it's too oily, add more salt as much as you can, and then add more sugar. Mix the vinaigrette with your vegetables. There it is. Isn't that lovely? Of course, mix it with your spoon, or in this case, God's tools. Let it marinate in the refrigerator at least 2 hours in a plastic bag or a refrigerator container. And then just before serving, just toss it gently. And it's really lovely, like the turkey is too.
Hi, I'm Joanne Lamb Hayes, food editor of Country Living magazine and co-author with Bonnie Tandy LeBlanc of this book on beans. In our work with beans, we had a lot of opportunity to discover in cooking a quick dinner for our family after we'd been testing all day how very versatile beans are and how good they are for a busy day. I brought a few samples along to talk to you about. These are the old-fashioned pole beans, which you are used to, and this was one of our grandmother's quick tricks to just cook these very quickly in a skillet, and on a busy day you have dinner. These are the old-fashioned American green beans, and at certain times of the year you can get wax beans to go with them, and that makes a very wonderful quick meal to put the two together, and it's very pretty. I would suggest that when you're watching television or doing something a night before you plan to serve these, to go ahead and snip the ends off the beans and put them in a plastic bag after you've rinsed them. Then they're all ready to go into your pot of boiling water the next day, and they can cook very quickly. I also see no reason why you need to bother to snip this pretty pointed end off. If you notice in magazine food pictures, we always leave the pretty ends on, and then it's only half the work. These are French green beans. They're very, very tiny and thin. They're available in gourmet markets, and you'll find them on the plates in expensive restaurants. If you notice when you buy French or French-style green beans in the freezer section or are served them somewhere, they're these normal American green beans which have been cut lengthwise to resemble the more expensive French style. These are fresh fava beans. Until recently, fava beans were only available fresh in ethnic neighborhoods. People used them either canned or frozen ones. But fava beans are a good thing to prepare the night before, at least as far as peeling them and taking them out of the shell. One thing you need to remember, whether you're cooking dried fava beans or fresh ones, they have an outer coating that's very bitter. If you're using dried ones, you can soak them and then peel the outer coating off. If you're using fresh ones, you should blanch them and peel the outer coating off before you cook them or put them into a cooked dish. Our book is also about other kinds of legumes, and here are a few different kinds of peas. These are the old-fashioned garden peas, which are great when they're in season. If they're not in season, you can use the frozen ones, which are even faster. And here again, I'd suggest that you take them out of the shells the night before you're going to use them. If you put them in a Ziploc bag in the refrigerator, they'll be great, and all that work will have been done, and you will have done two things at once. These are sugar snap peas. They've been in the market only about 5 or 6 years. Let's see if I can find one with a string here. Do you remember when people used to call green beans string beans? That was because they had these long strings in the side which had to be removed. Sugar snap peas still have the strings, so all you have to do with them is pinch off the end, remove the string, and they can be eaten just as they are, or they can be blanched for about a minute and put into cooked dishes. These are snow peas, which are prepared pretty much the same way. You just remove the string on them. Let's see if that'll work here. Much smaller string. Blanch them for about 30 seconds and put them into a cooked dish. Another thing for a quick night is great is canned beans. Here we have a variety. There are many more different kinds of canned beans on the grocery shelf now. We have kidney beans, black beans, cannellini beans, black-eyed peas, and garbanzos. They can be used in any recipe that you're used to using your home-cooked dried beans.
For nearly a century, Le Creuset's colorful French cookware has been a favorite in kitchens around the world. From its bold finishes and uncompromised quality to its easy-to-clean materials, the brand's range of iconic products are as easy to use as they are to love.
Now I've got the onion heating. I'm just going to saute some sliced onion and mashed garlic in hot butter until it's soft. I love the way it sings, don't you? So here's the garlic. I'm going to show you how to chop those in a second. Let me just show you finish with this zucchini. I'm slicing this zucchini on the diagonal, and I'm crazy about this knife because my hand, I can slice down, and my knuckles don't hit the counter. It's sort of an Oriental chef's knife, and it's just perfect for me. You can chop like that without bruising your knuckles. I've gotten to be very fond of it. I have a small hand, but still, you can also chop going with it like that, so I'm happy with that. Now, here is my onion, and I'm just going to go ahead and slice it. Cut it in half, peel it with the cut side away from you so you won't cry. It's just logical that if you cut it and then leave the part that's exposed to the onion towards yourself, that'll make you tear up. But I will tell you a secret: contact lenses and glasses. The only really good thing about not being able to see is that you can slice an onion better if you have contact lenses on or glasses, because it's a protection for you against the onion. And slice your onion, just cutting right down like that. Oop. Try not to get it in your lemon juice. Okay, there's that. And now let's peel and mash this garlic. Give it a swack, like that. And really, you can just chop it or mash it as you wish. And go ahead now. Sometimes I just mash it with salt. Now, your zucchini is sliced. I'm going to grate some lemon peel, but I want to go ahead and add this to the pan right now. Add your zucchini to the ovens. I've got some lemon peel here, juice a lemon, get all that done. So get one thing cooking before and then start moving on to the next thing. That's the whole purpose of this exercise, is to get one thing cooking, slice the rest, so that you're maximizing your time. Give it a cover, put a lid on top of it. There's a lovely lid that comes with this. Get a nice, heavy, enamel-type saucepan for something like this, because you want something that can cook unattended. You get it up high and then you reduce the heat and it'll just cook almost virtually by itself. But you still have to stir it frequently to keep it from browning, but not as much as you would in a skimpy pan. Now go ahead now. I'm just going to puree those solids in there. And you puree them until they're very smooth. That's the zucchini and the onions, and you've just pureed them. And you can refrigerate this puree up to 3 days. So you just do this part ahead of time whenever you have time. And I might add that it wouldn't hurt you just to double this part of the recipe and serve some zucchini and onions to your family one day, just as a simple vegetable, just like that. And then the next day, or 2 days later, whenever you get around to it and you have your pureed vegetables, then you add your stock to it. In fact, that's the way that I kind of developed this recipe, was with some leftover onions and zucchini one night when all of a sudden I needed a cold soup. Add your chicken stock to it, and this is where your lemon peel comes in, and a little lemon juice. Now, obviously, you could add yogurt or sour cream or any of those kinds of things to this soup to finish it off. I decided to leave it out. Just taste it and add salt and pepper as you needed it. Here's my little Corey Lewis salt shaker. People have asked a lot about Corey's things. They're all around the room. And she lives in Oxford, Mississippi. That's where she makes these. So, the Cal Ricotta Cheekecake. This will make one 9-inch cake. I didn't want to add any more cream to that because of the mayonnaise, and I'm going ahead and adding some more eggs now. I know a lot of you will kind of think of that as being forbidden to have eggs in two dishes, but I don't think it's much. Both of these will go a long ways. Crush 1 5.5 ounce package of graham crackers. So that's what this is right here. And then I'd have done that in the food processor, but you can do it with the rolling pin. Mix your crumbs with 3 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, and 1.5 teaspoons of ground ginger. That's just the kind that you get the spice in the grocery store. And I heard an interesting thing about that this ground ginger is really better as a spice when it comes from India. Mrs. Van, who runs Van's Spices, told me that, where fresh ginger is better from Jamaica. Now, you just take all of these, along with your butter is in there, and you just process the whole thing. You can do this in a blender, too. You don't have to have a wonderful fancy machine, although you know I love my food processor. In fact, you can even do it with a mixer. And you press it into the bottom of a greased 9-inch springform pan. Now, a springform pan has a special side to it here that releases. You want to be sure to get the bottom in right so that it's firm in there. And get it into, it should be greased. I've just greased it with no stick. You just press the whole thing in and pre-bake that crust at 375 degrees for 5 to 8 minutes and set it aside to cool. Then go back to your food processor, and you would clean everything out of there. You'd be immaculate. And combine 2 15-ounce containers of part skim ricotta cheese. So this is really low in fat, so you can take these 3 little egg yolks. 3 egg yolks, and then 4 egg whites, or 3 whole eggs and 1 extra egg white, no matter what way you want to count it. 1 egg white is 1 ounce. When you separate eggs, just freeze this, pull it out when you need it, and defrost it. It defrosts very quickly at room temperature. Let's see, 1/2 cup of sugar. This is called a spill. In other words, whenever you measure something like wax paper out, like sugar out into wax paper, and add it, that's called a spill, and then you just spill it out when you're ready for it. 1 cup of buttermilk, and you know you could make that from reconstituted buttermilk, from the dried buttermilk, and reconstitute it. 1/2 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, some grated orange peel from 1 orange, and 2 tablespoons of orange juice. Let me just turn all that off. Okay, I forgot it. Now, just whip this all around here. Very easy. And you can do this with an electric mixer as well. There's no reason you don't have to have anything fancy. If you want to get this out, hopefully you have a nice long finger, and you can hold that blade in and then pour this out. Now you're going to see how soupy this is, and that's why it's important that you got that bottom in correctly of your springform pan. And then pour it into your crust, which should be cooled by now. Then put this on top of a baking sheet. If you think there's any possibility it will leak, put some aluminum foil around the outside, because there's nothing that'll make you cry easier than cheesecake gushing out onto your sheet. Place this in the oven. Then underneath it in the oven, get a separate pan of water and put that on the bottom of the oven. Since this is lower in sugar and lower in fat, it needs a little help to keep it moist. And then bake it 45 to 60 minutes or until it's set. And here's one over here. We cooked this a little bit long because we forgot it. We get a little busy around here, as you can imagine. So just remove that from the sides like that. Here it is on its own little round. We have had this in the freezer because why wouldn't you make something like this ahead of time and freeze it if you possibly could? If you're like me, you're going to think, oh, I don't know about that cheesecake. When I like my cheesecake, I don't want a low-fat one, or low-calorie one, rather. But in fact, I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised, as I was with this. So all in all, this is a very, very satisfying, pleasant meal that I think you're going to enjoy, particularly in the hot summer or particularly when you want a buffet.
Lemon-Zucchini Soup, Turkey Tonnato, a different kind of bean salad, and Cal Ricotta Cheekecake are delicious do-ahead recipes that make entertaining your family and friends a breeze.